All right, good evening, everybody. You're all so quiet and attentive. I was surprised to see so many people in the room. Welcome this evening. My name's Valerie Forbes, and I'm the Dean of the Charles E. Schmidt College of Science. Welcome to this semester's first of two Frontiers in Science events. This is one of our signature programs in the college. Now my remarks have turned upside down. So this is one of the ways that we try to share our science with the broader community. So we put that there. So for over 2 decades, the series has served as a vital bridge between academia and the public, bringing together experts from within and outside of the university to tackle the most challenging scientific questions of our time. Frontiers has grown into a pillar of our community engagement, transforming complex research into meaningful dialogue. And today's discussion continues that tradition of excellence and is made possible through the continued generosity of our donors and attendees. So we are very grateful for your support in keeping science accessible to all. So tonight, we turn our focus to a true paradigm shift, how biotechnology is revolutionizing our approach to health and medicine. We're moving beyond traditional medicine to harness the very power of our own biology. Here at FAU, and specifically on our Jupiter campus, we're at the heart of this revolution. We sit with a premier biotechnology hub situated alongside world-renowned partners like Scripps Florida and Max Planck. And at the center of this ecosystem for FAU, the College of Sciences Center for Molecular Biology and Biotechnology, or CMBB, by interfacing directly with industry and uniting affiliate faculty from across the university, CMBB fosters the kind of interdisciplinary research required to reshape the future of human health. We're fortunate to have some of those affiliate members and other experts here with us for this panel. So the innovation we're discussing tonight isn't just happening in our labs, it's also in the hands of our students. And tonight, I'm thrilled to share that CMBB's second annual Biotechnology Hackathon kicks off tomorrow. So this 3-day intensive event brings together bright minds from across FAU to tackle the most stubborn hurdles of the life sciences. Their goal is simple but profound: to form innovative solutions that help people live longer, healthier lives. It's a testament to the vibrant hands-on research culture we've built here in the College of Science. So to share more about this special event, I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Shailaja Alani, Director of CMBB.
Thank you, Dean Forbes. Good evening, everyone. So biotechnology, it's defined in many ways through complex terms. But I like the one that our geneticist George Church used, where he said, biotechnology is cooler than Facebook. But I want to say now, biotechnology is way cooler than TikTok, Facebook, or Instagram. So what I mean by that is that social media connects us virtually, but biotechnology has this power to transform our lives fundamentally, to heal diseases, feed the world, and unlock the mysteries of life itself. At CMBB, or Center for Molecular Biology and Biotechnology, our mission is threefold. We want to build a core group of experts in molecular biology and biotechnology. We want to establish meaningful partnerships with industry and to train students so that they will be ready with future-proof skills for their career. So towards that mission, we are excited to announce our second annual Biotech Bridge Hackathon, which starts tomorrow and runs through Sunday here on the Boca Raton campus. So this year's theme is Beat the Clock, Follow Your Mind, Heart, and Gut. We are partnering with Frontiers in Science today to host a panel discussion on the same theme and bring together diverse perspectives on where the field is headed. So what do we do at the hackathon? So any FAU student, regardless of their major, can compete by forming interdisciplinary teams, bringing together biology, engineering, computer science, design, business, whatever it takes. They will work together, innovate together, and prove their ideas, however big or small, and that could change the trajectory of biotechnology. So this is our chance to show industry what we do here at FAU. And on top of it, participating students can receive volunteer hours, they win cash prizes, and there's free food. So if there are students in the audience, I encourage you to join and participate in this event. If you're a parent or a grandparent, I encourage your kids to participate. There are flyers on the table with more information and links to register. So I don't want to take any more time from today's panel discussion, so please enjoy this cool conversation on the incredible world of biology and technology. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shailaja. So in a moment, I'm going to be introducing our panelists, but before I do, you who've been with us before know that we use an app called Slido to take the questions and answers. This is an app that you can follow the directions on the screen to scan the QR code, and you can type any questions you have into your cell phone. You can also upvote other people's questions, and that'll move them up in the queue. Where are the Slido instructions? Okay, it's coming. It's coming. So it's easy to use. And so while we encourage you to use your phones to ask questions, I would ask you to silence them so that we don't interrupt the panel. And I also want to invite you to join us for an informal reception with some food and drink right next door after the panel is over. All right, so now I would like to welcome our distinguished panelists, and I would like to ask each of you to tell us your name, your current position, your area of expertise, and one of your favorite facts about human health or wellness. So let's start with you, Laura.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. So my name is Laura Fontenas. I'm an assistant professor in biology, and my lab is in Jupiter. My lab studies neuroscience or neurobiology, specifically how you create a functional nervous system and how we can repair this nervous system upon injury. And I think my favorite fact, I'm going to turn that into a question. How many of you have heard that we only use 10% of our brain? Oh, a lot of you. Yeah, I just heard something. Do you think it's accurate? No. No. So the good news is we all in this room use more than 10% of our brain. Even when we sleep, even when we don't do anything, even if you're spending time on TikTok on your phone, you're still using more than 10% of your brain. So that's my favorite fact.
Okay, great.
About the brain.
You. Thank you very much. Nicole.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here this evening. My name is Nicole Vitale, and I am an assistant professor of nutrition in exercise science and health promotion here at FAU on this campus. And my area of expertise is focused on chronic disease prevention through nutrition programming within the community. A fun fact about health and wellness that I think holds true is that we truly are what we eat. Take, for example, fruits and vegetables. The actual carotenoids, the plant pigments that you consume in fruits and vegetables, are stored in our skin. And as researchers and scientists, we can actually analyze the skin to assess fruit and vegetable intake as a non-invasive objective measurement and compare that to overall diet quality.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Next, Claudia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Claudia Rodriguez. I'm an associate professor at the College of Medicine here on this campus. My expertise is in vascular biology. I work with cardiovascular disease. And thinking about what I find the most exciting thing, I gave a lot of thought to this question. But I think it's the ability of our body to adapt to everything we are in contact with. And this is very true for the heart. Sometimes this adaptation doesn't go well, but like we still have this ability and this power to kind of control, like if it's by what we eat, you know, how we behave, right? So we have the power. So I like to think that way.
Okay, great. Thank you. John?
My name's John Piccone. I'm the founder and a partner at Eureka Bioworks. We're a data science and biology company based here in Florida. My expertise is helping pharmaceutical companies use data science and AI to improve the process of drug discovery. I started at IBM. I founded the advanced analytics practice for life sciences companies, and then was a founding member at Watson Health. And our clients are all the companies that you know, Pfizer, Amgen, Novartis, et cetera. Fun fact, it's not a fun fact, it's an important fact, and there are three of them actually, three numbers. The average time it takes to get a drug to market from its ideation is between 12 and 17 years. So there's 12 or 17 years of people, patients, experiencing disease without a better therapy for that period of time. The second fact is that the cost of developing a drug over that interval is between $2.2 and $2.4 billion. When you have a disease with several hundred patients, that makes the therapy too expensive per patient to be able to pursue. And the third fact is that 70% of programs in clinical trials, in human clinical trials, fail. So we're putting drugs into development, spending all that money and all that time with patients unnecessarily. If we could know whether they were going to succeed or not, we could kill them or kill the programs earlier and put the resources into something better.
Okay. Well, thank you all. Thank you for those introductions. I'm going to go right to our first question. I'd like you all to comment on this. The theme is about what unlocking the code of life means to you. So what we're talking about this evening is beyond medical treatments. It's about a fundamental shift in how we approach human health. We're entering an era where we can reprogram cells, repair previously untreatable diseases or injuries, and use AI to predict cures before we even step into a lab. So briefly, what does unlocking the code of life mean to you? And what is the most significant promise in biotechnology in your specific field? And what does that hold for the future of society? So, briefly.
Briefly, when you say the code of life, it reminds me of the code of DNA. And maybe you know that the DNA is basically 4 letters of the alphabet, A, T, G, and C. And it codes every single gene. It makes who you are. And it's only 4 letters, but like an indefinite possibility of these 4 letters. But it also reminds me of when I was a student and I got interested in neuroscience because I wanted to know all of the mysteries of the brain. And I think that's the other code of life I'm trying to tackle in my lab every day. So I think going from the invisible, that is the DNA, and then putting all of the DNA together, understanding how genes function, and then seeing cells with a microscope, understanding how these cells function together as a network, and then these cells together form a tissue, these tissues form an organ, and then you make up a brain. And so you go from the very, very tiny invisible to pieces that are more visible and you can almost handle in your hand. And putting all of that together, putting the pieces of the puzzle together, that's what I see when I think about the code of life.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Nicole?
All right, so to me, unlocking the code of life really means understanding those patterns that shape human health. Especially in my field, it's about understanding those eating behaviors, those nutritional patterns that people develop over time that can lead to either health or chronic illness. And as for the most significant promise for biotechnology in nutrition, I would say it's those digital tools that we can now use that take complex nutrition concepts and translate it into personalized nutrition guidance for individuals to use to either prevent or reduce chronic illness.
Okay, great. Thank you. Claudia?
Can you hear me now? Yeah? Okay. So for me, when we talk about code of life, right, we all think about this DNA. The thing is that in our bodies, every part, every little piece of our bodies is made of like molecular units that are kind of pieces that come from this main structure that is the DNA, right? So the DNA, for us to get these little pieces, we have to go from one step to the next and to the next. But like, it's not just about like these genes for me, like it's also about what controls the structure of these, what we call the DNA, because now we know that when we get to these molecules, these tiny pieces that make our body work, it's like sometimes you have these proteins, but like these molecules, but how they are regulated play a big role. So you try to fix at different levels if you need, with like any kind of interventions, with exposures. So that's what for me, like.
Okay. Tom?
All of you have talked about there being something beyond the code. It's not the code, it's multiple codes or multiple pieces. And we think of it more as a model for life, where DNA is the start, but there's a lot that happens outside the control of DNA. You can get post-translational modifications to proteins, which is after,
jargon.
I knew you were going to say that. After the protein is made from the DNA, it gets changed by something else in the body. And the microbiome, you've got organisms there that are introduced from your environment and your food, and they interplay with other systems, the immune system and your brain, et cetera. So there's a model for life, and understanding that model for life and how the code of DNA and proteins and the microbiome and biological pathways, et cetera, all interact with each other. So the way we think about it, and the way the group that we're working with in science is about creating a model of biology, and we're working towards an idea called the digital twin of a human, where we can take all these systems and model them in silico and replicate the biology of human biology or any organism's biology, and navigate it the same way that we all navigate with Google Maps or Waze, right? If you have that data, that model that represents the biology, and you have a tool, this is the AI piece of it, that allows you to navigate around that biology. We'll understand diseases better, we'll understand health and longevity and beauty and nutrition better, and we can come up with better ways of moving towards healthier states.
All right. Thank you all very much. All right, we're going to shift themes a little bit and talk about brain health and repairing the irreparable. And this is a question for Laura specifically. So we've established that unlocking the code is our goal, but perhaps the most complex part of that code resides in our nervous system. For a long time, we believed that once the brain or spinal cord was damaged, neither medicine nor the body's capacity for healing could repair that damage. However, we're now entering an era where those biological limits are being challenged by groundbreaking research. So Laura, your research as a neurobiologist focuses on the vital role of glial cells and the mechanisms of the nervous system. You're exploring the frontier of how we can repair damage to the spinal cord and nerves, damage that was once considered permanent. So how exactly is biotechnology shifting our strategy from simply managing nerve damage to actually stimulating repair? And what breakthroughs do you foresee for those living with conditions like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, or spinal injuries in the future?
That's a really good question, and I really appreciate that you took your time to see the two words glial cells, because I'm sure you haven't heard of that one. So neuroscience is a study of the nervous system, but in neuroscience, you hear neurons. For the past 200 years, neuroscience has been the focus on neurons. But there's other cells in your brain, in your spinal cord, along every nerve in your body. These cells are called glia, or glial cells as a whole, and they mean glue in Greek, because 200 years ago, where they were first described, people thought they were just sticking neurons together, filling your brain. Now we know glia are playing a lot of different functions. We know neurons cannot survive without glia. They can't function without glia. So now we can redetermine or redefine the word glia and accept that they are support cells for neurons. And so what makes me very optimistic about where the field of neuroscience is going is that now we are shifting a little bit the research and we are putting the spotlight on these glial cells. We know a lot of these diseases where we have a loss of neurons, like Alzheimer's disease. We have a loss of neuron, and the result is a loss of memory. And there's a lot of other examples. And it's been very difficult to really tackle the question of where does the disease start from and really understand the cascade. But now, having the spotlight on these support cells that I didn't tell you yet, but they outnumber neurons. So in your brain, you have way more glia than you have neurons. And still, for 200 years, we've been ignoring them. And so now a lot of research, fundamental research, clinical research, is really trying to revisit these diseases and just address a different question, and what happens to the glia? One example that is very recent, I would say in the past 3-4 years, several studies came about Alzheimer's disease, where now we can see a loss of glia maybe 20 years before the loss of memory. And the good news is scientists are now developing tracers. So tracers are molecules that can be used in a PET scan when you can go for an MRI, go for a PET scan. It's non-invasive, and people are developing these tracers so we can see the loss of glia in a patient that has no sign of Alzheimer's disease, that have no sign of memory loss. And maybe we could predict 20 years early the fate of a person, and that would give us a lot of time to address it and maybe find better therapeutics for this person. So I really think we're shifting the research and we have a lot more possibilities. We no longer have to wait for the loss or damage of the neurons to be able to correct or fix them.
Okay, fascinating. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna switch themes for a minute and talk about preventative nutrition and digital health innovations. So this one's for you, Nicole. So we often think of the brain as the sole director of the body, but science now shows a constant dialogue between our mind and our gut. So Nicole, your work explores how healthier eating behaviors support overall wellness and a resilient gut microbiome. As a registered dietitian and researcher, your work emphasizes how nutrition literacy and biotechnology can intersect to prevent chronic illness. So my question is, how can biotechnology help us move beyond generic diets to create personalized precision nutrition that combats rising rates of obesity and diabetes or other specific ailments? And what digital health innovations can support nutrition efforts to reduce the risk of chronic diseases across communities?
Okay, these are all wonderful questions. So when we think of biotechnology and nutrition, what first might come to mind is genetics or food engineering. But from a community prevention perspective, biotechnology can also refer to those digital tools that are now advancing in our world that we now have access to at our fingertips. These tools are taking real-time nutrition data and turning it into personalized nutrition for people, for individuals. So thinking about apps on your phone that you can download, hundreds of nutrition apps, many of them are free. And there are apps that you can take a picture of your food and it'll tell you the nutrients in it. You can scan a barcode and it can tell you what's in that food or compare pricing across different stores. These are amazing advances in technology for personalized nutrition because they can bring awareness to eating patterns, reinforce healthy eating, whether it's encouragement of eating more fruits and vegetables or whatnot, depending on what it is. It can track calories. There's MyFitnessPal. You have ones like Fujicate and Yuka. Hundreds of apps out there that now are helping the experts in the field really bridge that gap between knowledge and behavior. Because when it comes to chronic illness, thinking about what contributes to the onset or diagnosis, many different things contribute. But what we do know is that eating behaviors, our lifestyle, play a major role. And fortunately, those are modifiable. We can modify our lifestyle behaviors, specifically when it comes to nutrition. As a dietitian and a community researcher, what I like to focus on are three main points: access, for the population, action, creating action, and then having long-term adherence. And as for that access piece, there's many reasons why people cannot change behaviors, and access is one of them. These digital tools are reducing access-related barriers. They're bringing nutrition to people's fingertips, basically. They're saying, okay, this is what you need, this is where you are in your life, this is what we can do with it. So let's say you could not find information. Okay, now you can. Now the apps are free. And aside from the apps themselves, we also have telenutrition. You all have heard of telemedicine, teledocs, yes? There are numerous companies out there that now have virtual dietitians. Many are low cost or even free to the consumer. And this, again, is bringing that expert advice, one-on-one counseling to the individual that really is paving the way for chronic disease and what that looks like for prevention or reduction. And now, not so much about these technologies replacing the experts, but using it as a wonderful supplement where we can not only bring the knowledge to consumers, but also then teach them the skills or increase motivation, increase confidence to perform these behaviors. And this is what it's about, to be able to change behaviors. So my research does really focus on what are those strategies that will work, meeting someone where they're at in real time, to be able to work with them on an individual level to make behavior changes, which will eventually lead to adherence and long-term healthy habits, i.e. reducing chronic illness or prevention of.
Okay.
Thank you.
We look forward to those apps. Yes, very good. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to go over to heart health and from prevention to genetic cures. So this is for you, Claudia. The nutrients our gut processes fuel our entire body, but the heart remains the center of it all. Cardiovascular disease remains the leading cause of death worldwide, but there are promising breakthroughs in this field. Claudia, your work in biomedical science explores the earliest signs of cardiovascular damage and patient care with novel approaches for conditions traditionally seen as difficult to treat, such as using stem cells and gene therapy. So my question is, what are the most promising gene and stem cell therapies currently being developed for heart health, and how dramatically could these treatments impact society given the prevalence of cardiovascular disease? And additionally, how are personal monitoring devices allowing patients to take ownership of their heart health in real time?
So, as you heard, cardiovascular disease is the main killer worldwide, I would say. But when we think about cardiovascular disease, everybody think about stroke, heart attacks, right? Which can compromise the life of anyone who had undergone through this. But the truth is that, like many of these conditions, they are kind of treatable depending on the progression of the disease. Remember that when I said in the beginning that what is amazing for our bodies, the ability to adapt. So our hearts, they try to adapt to a heart attack, for example. Sometimes this adaptation is not good, and the interventions are required ahead of time. So the earlier we learn about what's going on, the sooner we can come in with an intervention. But what happens that in many cases, and especially with women also, sometimes people have heart attacks or small heart attacks because they vary in size, and they are not even aware of that, right? There are cases that people are undergoing through a stroke and they have no idea either. So it's very important for us to be very proactive in how we are feeling, That's when the devices would come in, I would say, because as patients, we are like taking a step forward, controlling things by ourselves, instead of just going to a doctor once, twice a year, depending on the frequency, right? Oh, you have high blood pressure. Oh, but I've been having high blood pressure for a long time, right? So damage has been done already. So what do you do next? And like a lot of the risk factors for cardiovascular disease, they are considered preventable. Diet is a big thing, right? But in reality, like about 20 to 30% of cases of cardiovascular disease are actually not preventable. So there are cases in which people find out one day that, oh, you have like a cardiac dysfunction. Sometimes you are already in heart failure, right? I don't know how many of you have heard about the word heart failure here, which is like almost like the end. Sometimes you hear about someone, oh, this person just dropped dead, right? What happened? Nobody knew. So in cases like this, which are very severe, we go into these new technologies that are gonna come in hand. For example, I think for me, like the top one would be gene therapy. In many cases, when someone has a heart disorder that is not caused by risk factors like food, smoking, aging is a big thing as well that contributes to heart disease. How do you fix this? So stem cells come into place to try to repair the function of the cells in our heart that help the heart contract. So this is kind of has been ongoing for like I would say over 20 years, but like there's still a long way ahead. While if you do gene therapy, there are ways for you to give the heart things that it needs to work efficiently. So it would be like a faster solution. And like there, I also want to bring up some cases about, we are talking here about genes. Some kind of heart diseases, they are associated with defects in the proteins, the little molecules that our heart cells make, which are defective. And we're talking a lot about now the ability that we have through gene therapy and through editing of genes, how we can actually add to the heart functional proteins so we can improve a heart function and minimize the impact of cardiovascular disease.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Okay, John, we're going to be talking about AI and the future of drug discovery. So we've talked about the brain, the gut nutrition, and the heart, three massive areas of data. To make sense of it all and turn this biology into medicine, we need a level of speed humans can't achieve alone. So this is where AI steps in. Now, you bring an industry perspective to this panel, specializing in how artificial intelligence and data science are rewriting the rule book for how medicine is made. And in the past, finding a new drug was like finding a needle in the haystack. Today, we're using AI to design the needle. So how is AI enabling us to find genuine cures for complex diseases faster than ever before? And what does this accelerated timeline mean for the average patient waiting for a life-changing treatment?
So the first obstacle when you're working in a big company like a pharmaceutical company to innovation is actually belief. And the first thing that AI is changing is the belief that we can change the timelines. I mentioned earlier that the average time to develop a drug is 12 to 17 years. The industry now believes that we can get that down to 1 or 2 years.
Wow, okay.
And as an aspirational goal,
Okay.
the timelines are already shrinking dramatically. I mentioned that it takes $2 to $2.4 billion to develop a drug. There's now the belief that we can do that for from 200 to 500 million, a tenth of the cost. And the failure rate is 70% in clinical trials. There is a belief that we can get that close to 100% if we do things right. So what are these things that we would do differently? AI is being used in every step of the drug discovery process, from understanding the disease and identifying what is the defect that's causing that disease. Even in Alzheimer's yet, we're not really quite sure, right? What's causing the disease and what's the disease process? AI is helping us do that with data from cells and from experimentation. Once you understand the disease, you have to pick a target. What's the part of the biology? Is it a molecule, a protein, a cell surface marker that you're going to target to move the disease state towards a healthy state? It's called the biological target. So finding and picking that target after you understand the disease is next. After that, you have to design the molecule, design the medicine. So how do you design a small molecule or a protein or a cell or a gene therapy that acts on that target in such a way? And then you've got the clinical trials, toxicity, dosing, and efficacy to prove. AI is being used in every step of that process, and I'll describe just a few. In the discovery of the molecule step, the original way of discovering drugs was through a process called screening. You would take a molecule, you would expose it to the biology, you'd give it to a rat, or put it in a cell culture, or put it in a test tube with a bunch of proteins and see, does anything happen? And then you'd say, is that useful, right? This was the cause in the last century of companies going and scientists going down to the rainforest and finding frogs and looking at their saliva and finding molecules that might do something. And that evolved to a process where pharmaceutical companies had millions of molecules in their libraries, and when they tested a disease, they would expose those molecules, the million molecules, or half of them, 500,000 molecules, to the disease and see if anything happened. And they would do that in an automated way. Still a needle in a haystack type approach. With AI, we can improve that method by saying, why should we limit ourselves to the million molecules that we found in nature or can synthesize in the lab? Let's generate with AI molecules that are likely to have a positive effect on this disease and test all of them. And let's see if we can do that really fast, like in 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 24 hours, right? So now with generative chemistry, we can create libraries of millions and millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of molecules, test them against the biology, and see if there's an effect that's helpful for a disease. So that's one way AI is helping the traditional way of doing pharmaceutical research. But we're also transitioning from screening, where we're testing if a molecule has an effect, to understanding the biology well enough that we can pick a target or a bunch of targets in the biology and design a molecule for it. So we're purposefully we're using AlphaFold to say, okay, this protein that's my target protein looks like this. Let me design some molecules that will bind with that and inactivate this pathway to improve the disease. The other thing is that we've got now many, many more modalities, more types of medicine, categories of medicine that have been discovered. So we used to have just small molecules. These are molecules that you make in a test tube through a set of synthetic chemistry steps, like aspirin, right? Or some antibiotics that were derived from nature, small molecule chemistry. In Genentech and Amgen pioneered proteins as therapies. These are proteins that you make. They're very long polymers. They're big, big, big molecules that go into the body and do things. We also now have cell therapies, gene therapies, antibody drug conjugates, which is an antibody which can target a specific cell or a specific part of the body, and you can attach a lethal small molecule to it so that that payload is delivered specifically to that place. And we're using AI to design all these drugs, and we're using AI to understand where in the disease should we target a molecule to. So pairing those two things, what's the target and what's the molecule, we're dramatically increasing our palette of possibilities for new medicines, and we're dramatically increasing the pace and reducing the cost. Now, last thing is that there are several companies. There's a whole new generation of companies that are being founded with AI as the model for doing drug discovery. They don't have to change like the big pharma companies do from the old method to the new method. In silico medicine, Recursion are two of those. And the first drugs that have been developed completely with AI are already in clinical trials. So 30 years ago, in the tech industry, who were the big tech companies? It was IBM, HP, and Oracle. Not any of those are really in the top list of tech companies anymore, right? It's Microsoft, Google, and Amazon. They were founded by people who grew up with cell phones and PCs, not mainframes. There's a new generation of pharmaceutical companies that are being developed by people who grew up with AI and grew up with molecular biology. And they've completely reinvented how pharmaceutical research is being done, and that's what's going to drive the new wave of innovation.
Okay, exciting stuff. Great. Shall we go over to the audience questions? So some of these may be obvious who they're targeted to, but others, whoever feels like they can answer, feel free to jump in. All right, so the first one I got here, it says, I'm starting a project on drug-producing recombinant bacteria in the gut microbiome. How do you deal with novel project attempts as leaders in the field? Take a shot.
I'll take a shot at that. Again, the first part of the problem is the people problem. For novel ideas, antibodies come out and try to kill them. So you have to protect them from all those forces that are going to try and kill them. Secondly, you need to fund it and feed it with whatever it needs: expertise, support, laboratory space, money, et cetera, et cetera. And then coaching to the investigators to make sure that they're getting it's not a narrow perspective on the problem, but it's a broad perspective and is going to be likely to succeed.
I want to.
Please,
Okay.
yeah, please.
So I am a risk taker. Whoever had this question, I'm a risk taker. So I think like sometimes when we try to talk to people about what we're doing, we get very discouraged. It happens a lot in science. So I would recommend to filter that first of all, and to make sure you really have a good knowledge of your product or your research, whatever you're developing. I had a mentor that always told me, follow your gut feeling, you know? And I would say, give it a try, of course, like every business takes time to fly, right? And but if you have the knowledge and you can convince people, this you know, makes sense to you, you know, go for it. That's my advice.
One other thing, riffing off something that you said, innovation is a contest to the current thinking on a topic. And so the innovators at the early stages of their innovation are typically not popular. And you're not going to have a lot of followers. So you just have to understand that's the natural state of things.
Okay. All right, great. I've got one here that looks like it's for you, Laura. So can glial cells replicate or regenerate across life?
That's a really good question. They don't truly replicate, but you have a pool of glial cells in your brain that are basically sleeping. They are asleep. And they can wake up. And as they wake up, they can produce either neurons or more glial cells. So it's not truly that they replicate, but you have a stock that is unused throughout life, even in adults. And then, yes, they are able to help with regeneration.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, here's one on drug discovery. So what are the biggest challenges for drug discovery with AI? And if you could design your own AI system, what would it do? Looks like maybe that's for you.
A couple of big challenges. One is data. There's a lot of data out there. The cancer moonshot, a lot of work in genetics, et cetera, have generated huge amounts of data, but it's not well organized, and it's siloed in organizations. And the value in the data comes from doing what Google did, right? In the early days of Google, before the AI was there, they created the semantic web. They just organized all the data and content that was out there and made it accessible to everyone. And then the AI applications on top of that started emerging. It's the same thing in drug discovery. We need to take the data that's out there and organize it so that it's usable by investigators. And then that's not enough. We'll get a certain amount of utility from taking the data that exists and organizing it, but we need to generate more data as well. Some of these companies that are the new generation of pharmaceutical companies, Recursion, for instance, they've got completely automated laboratories that are running 365 days a year, 24/7, generating data on biology. So data is one of the big issues. What was the second part?
So, what are the biggest challenges for drug discovery with AI? And if you could design your own AI system, which maybe any of you can answer, what would it do?
I think I talked about that in terms of the digital twin. Assemble a model of the biology across all these biological disciplines, genomics, epigenetics, proteomics, transcriptomics, all the different layers of biology, and organize it into a model of biology that you can interrogate. That's the data part of it. And then build the applications kind of like the mapping applications, right? After they got all that mapping data together, tell me what my ETA is. Give me an automatic route. Tell me where the traffic is and redirect me around the traffic. There are similar applications like that we would need on top of this biological atlas. How does the disease work? Tell me what the likely targets would be, et cetera, et cetera.
Can I add to this?
Please, yeah.
I think we're going to have a partnership.
A new
'Cause
collaboration, I like it.
I'm a molecular person, so I think like I love the idea of AI, but I think one of the major challenges is the complexity of biology, right? We know like it's not just one target, and the thing is like all these little molecules that we have, they may form a network of interactions. They are modified by other networks. And I think this is where the AI, how do you see the AI integrate? Because basically when we do research, we collect data, right? We collect a soup of information, I would say, but we need to make sense of this information. There are tools out there that can generate these connections, this target connected here, and like who is up here, who is down here, so you can figure out the best target, right? And I think AI could help with this part as well.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is that we have, in both medicine and in science, I think we've divided ourselves into specialties that are so specialized that you get stuck in a silo. And a lot of goodness, innovation, breakthroughs come at the interfaces
yes.
where these disciplines talk to each other. We mentioned earlier, for instance, that the gut microbiome interacts with the endocrine system, and the endocrine system interacts with the central nervous system. If you're studying in any one of those disciplines, you're making progress, but big breakthroughs come from talking at those interfaces across the disciplines. And AI has the ability to take all knowledge and look at it through different lenses and through different cuts through the data, and it allows that collaboration between the different disciplines in very interesting ways.
Okay. All right. This next one, I know you're all going to have a perspective on. So, what advice or insight can you provide into opportunities for recent graduates to get involved in meaningful work at the entry level? Nicole, we want to start with you?
Oh boy. Okay. Advice for recent graduates to get involved.
In a meaningful way, in a meaningful work at the entry level.
Are you saying like they got the job already? This is more volunteer.
It doesn't say, and I don't
Okay.
want to overinterpret the question.
Okay. So if you have yet to get the job, so let's pretend there, don't be afraid to go out there and gain experience, even if it's voluntary. People that are in the field, email them, ask questions. Hey, can I come shadow you? Or maybe can we meet via Zoom for 20, 30 minutes just to get more insight about that field. One thing that I do tell people from the nutrition world that I'm in, and I worked in the community for 5 years prior with interns and students as a dietitian, every field is very small. Where I come from, the nutrition field is everyone knows everyone, or maybe you know someone who knows someone else. So it's really important for students or recent graduates to get out there and to meet the professionals, to make good impressions, to ask the right questions. That way you can have that great first impression, so when you do go out there and get the job, or maybe you already got the job, you're making sure that every single connection is one that you can say, okay, in the future, if my name comes up, will this be a good impression for the next step? And that's something that I always drive home to students or interns when I was working previously in the community, because it's so important. Once you soil your name in the state of Florida as a dietitian, that's it. Or any field probably.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to know someone who's going to come back to you. So I think it's really about not being afraid of reaching out and getting more information, and also setting a good example, because it's not just right now, it's about what your future is going to look like 5-10 years from now.
Good advice. Other advice for recent graduates to get involved, Laura?
Yeah, maybe I can contribute to that answer. As a researcher and a faculty, so I teach at FAU and also have a research lab at FAU, I get a lot of requests from students, so I know what works, I know the secret. Just try to be transparent and tell the person what you're looking for, what skills you want to develop, what's your long-term project. Do you want to pursue in academia, or do you want to get a job long-term, your one final job? And try to get interested in the topic. If it's a research lab, try to do some homework and maybe look at the questions the lab is studying. And usually that's all we want from someone. We want someone who shows motivation and someone who brings energy. And I think part of the question was trying to do something meaningful.
Yes.
I think any contribution, entry level or not, is meaningful. We need help. As you said, we process a lot of data. In my lab, that's going to be microscope images. They are huge images. We fill hard drives every week. And we need eyes and hands to look at these images and try to sort them out. So I feel like entry level is a big contribution already.
Okay, great. Claudia?
Yeah, I want to say something about this. For me, I interpret the word meaningful as what is your passion as well, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people, they get stuck in jobs that they don't love, you know? And I think most scientists, they love what they do, right? And never be afraid to change. I came here working with parasites, then I worked with frogs, and then I work with something that I find meaningful, that is cardiovascular disease, because I wanted to go deeper in this health-related field, you know. But there is a space for everyone. But I think finding out they say the true north, right? What is your passion? Because I think if you follow your passion, you're gonna do your job much better, and that's gonna help you in the future as well.
Good advice. John, you want to add anything?
Two things. My favorite source of career advice is from Ashton Kutcher and Mike Rowe. Take any job and move from there to your next job. It's going to get you out there, and people are going to see your work, and just make yourself useful. That's the first thing. The second thing is network.
Yes.
Quick story, I was in the pool at my mom's condo in Sarasota, and there were two women at the other end of the pool, grandmothers, and they heard us talking, and we started up a conversation. One of them said, my granddaughter's looking for a job. Oh, what does she do? She just graduated with a biology degree from Stony Brook University in New York. She's now working in Manhattan at a consulting company, working for all the top pharmaceutical companies. I got a call from her the next morning. I know her grandmother got out of that pool, called her up and said, call this guy tomorrow morning. She got the job. It's network.
Yep. I think that was all really good advice. Reputation's everything. Do your homework. Be passionate. Network. Graduates, recent graduates, soon-to-be graduates, this is great advice. So on that note, I'm going to end the formal Q&A. I know some of you may still have questions. Our panelists will hang around afterwards next door at the reception. So please join us and feel free to ask them any questions we couldn't answer here. I want to thank all of our panelists for sharing their expertise with us. I want to thank the College of Science staff who've been working hard behind the scenes and in person to make this event successful. And I want to thank all of you for attending. So our next event is on the 25th of February on coral reef conservation. Please join us, and we'll see you next door. Thank you.